أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد. Alhamdulillah for another opportunity. Today is a Sunday. What's today's date in Islamic calendar? Rajab? 20 something. I believe 20 something. Let me check. 28 Rajab, 28, 29. So Masjid got it. 28 or 29 Rajab, 1444 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And but the Qura one is 28 or 29. And you know the beautiful thing about this is that it's based on the moon sighting. And don't forget that in the issues of moon sighting, we have local and global moon sightings, where a community will say, we will base our moon sighting based on where we are. We're not going to think of what other people are doing. Another community will say, fine, we can do both. We will go with the global moon sighting. If the moon is sighted anywhere in the world, and then it's credible for an Islamic community, alhamdulillah, we'll accept it. So that's why sometimes you have, some of these, differences. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yesterday, there was a question concerning, wiping on the boots and then, taking off the boots. It's the same as wiping on a sock. It's the same thing. There's no difference on that. There's the hadith in Sunan al-Bayhaqi where Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, he performed wudu, washed his feet, put on the sack, and then it was time for salah, and then the muaddin came to do the iqamah, and Imam Ali took off his sack and then he prayed like that. So
I'm wearing shoes, right? And I don't have no socks.
no.
And my wudu is broken.
No.
So I make wudu. So I wipe over my shoe.
Mhm.
Instead of taking my shoes off
No.
and on my feet, I wipe over my shoes.
No.
Like sock.
No. I get it.
Yeah, no. But then I take the shoes off and come in summer.
Yes. So it's the same thing that we're discussing. You instead of it being a sock here, it becomes a shoe or a boot.
No.
So let's not forget the original criteria or the law in wiping a sock is that you must already have performed wudu totally before you put on the sock.
No.
That's number one. So in this case, you perform your wudu normally, and then you put on your shoes. Then the subsequent time that you're going to perform wudu, you now wipe on the boots. Okay? So now you come to a masjid where you are not allowed to enter with your boots to pray. You can take off the boots and then you pray like that because the original wudu is still valid. And then taking it off is not part of the things that nullify or invalidate the wudu. And this, there's a hadith of Sunan al-Bayhaqi that I was explaining that Imam Ali, he went through this same process, and then it was time for salah. The muaddin, did the iqamah, and then Imam Ali took off his sack, and then he prayed like that. So this is, a lesson where we can pick that, yes, so long as the wudu remains valid, and then you've not engaged in any act that we already know that invalidates the wudu, when you pull off the sack or you take off the boot, the wudu is still valid. Allahu A'lam. So that was just for yesterday's class. No. And
So that's the evidence right there.
that's the evidence, yes. That's a proof from Sunan al-Bayhaqi. It's an act of Imam Ali. Last week we spoke about the Daawah of the Prophet Muhammad starting, in secret. where he goes to his friend Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and then he explains to him the message. The Prophet Muhammad said, there is nobody in history who, when I called them to Islam, never thought of it except Abu Bakr Siddiq. Everybody would tell me, okay, Ya Rasulullah, Muhammad, give me some time to think about it. Let me consider some factors. But Abu Bakr Siddiq, no. The moment the Prophet Muhammad told him, Ana Rasulun min Allah, I'm a prophet, I'm a messenger from the Almighty Allah, Abu Bakr Siddiq straightforward accepted the deed. And we know the 10 people who were giving glad tidings of Jannah in this dunya, 6 of them were convinced by Abu Bakr Siddiq to become Muslims. So all these 6 guys, Uthman is amongst them, Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn Jarrah is amongst them, all these great guys, all their good deeds, Abu Bakr Siddiq has a commission in there because he played a major role in them accepting Islam. So you find out that sometimes you are misinformed that the early Muslims were weaklings and slaves. No. The early Muslims were from all the social status or structure of society. So you have rich and wealthy men like Abu Bakr Siddiq there, and then you have the middle class people there, and then you have the poor people, and then you have the people who are considered slaves, all in there. They were there, but then it was a small community. They were very, very secretive, and then they were very, very cautious about the community that is around them, because these are people who have been worshipping idols for hundreds of years. So you can't come in with an ideology and want to change them all of a sudden. You're going to cause a problem in the community. So the Almighty Allah made the Prophet Muhammad start the message in a secret way, because we have lessons to pick from that. The Almighty Allah could have sent Jibreel in his form as an angel and stood on the Kaaba and say, this is Muhammad, he is a prophet, all of you believe. They all believe, because this is an angel standing there. But then Islam is for eternity. What if the Prophet Muhammad is no longer there, and then the community is facing a challenge? Will Jibreel come down again and then do that? No. So the Ummah must be trained, must be taught to do things in a way that is human, that will lead to the sustenance and then the survival of the deen. So for example, when the Prophet Muhammad died, the Sahaba were confused. Umar bin Khattab drew his sword and said, anybody who said Rasulullah is dead is going to chop off their head. Everybody had to keep quiet. Abu Bakr Siddiq came in, and then he went in and he saw the Prophet Muhammad covered up. He kissed his forehead, and then he came out and then he read the verse. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم وَمَنْ يَنقلب على عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَا يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. That the Prophet Muhammad is a man. So if he is dead or is being killed, will you all apostate and then leave Islam? Umar bin Khattab, when he said, when Abu Bakr read that verse, it felt as if that was the first time he was hearing those verses. And then he saw his feet started shaking. That is when he really considered that the Prophet Muhammad died. So the Ummah will go through a lot of challenges. So if the outset of the Ummah or the Deen is being faced with challenges, that strengthens the Ummah for the Ummah to be able to survive. So this brings us to present times. Alhamdulillah, we live in a country whereby we are not prevented from practicing our deen. But in other jurisdictions where you find Muslims as minorities, and then there's government pressure, there's clamping on them, then the Meccan period strategy comes in, where you need to hide your deen so that you survive. You're given that leverage, you can do that. So it is important that when we look into the seerah for situations and then conditions, we pick those lessons to apply them in our day-to-day activities. After a period of preaching for some time, some narrations say 3 years, but then we checked those narrations and they are not authentic, so we cannot say for a fact that he preached silently for 3 years. But we can say yes, he preached silently or secretly for a number of years. Then the Almighty Allah revealed a verse where the Almighty Allah says, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and then caution your close family relations. So the Prophet Muhammad had to call family members who were very close to give them the message of Islam. Now the message is going to move away from Khadija, Ali, Abu Bakr, and those close knit people to a wider community. And then he must be very, very strategic on who he's going to call upon. Because if he's going to bring some new people into the circle who will be the ones who are going to destroy the movement, he must be very careful. So who are the ones who he's going to call upon? The family members who are closer to him, cousins, uncles, grandfathers, who are closer, are people who, even if they might not even accept the message, at least they have close kinship ties with him. They'll be able to their antagonism will be reduced towards him. So 30 people came into the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They ate, they drank, he made them a party, they enjoyed, and then he gave them the message, and then he told them who is going to accept this message. At that time, it was only Ali radiallahu anhu, who was already a Muslim, so he got up and said, I'm already with you, so there's no business, questioning my allegiance with you. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to go to the next level, which is he mounted one of the mountains in Mecca, and then he started calling them by their names, their tribes. Ya Bani Fihr, Ya Bani Kada, oh tribe of this tribe, oh this tribe. After they gathered, if anybody is not able to go, he looks and then he sees that it is Muhammad on top of the mountain. He says, Muhammad on top of the mountain, then it is something very important, because this young man is As-Sadiq al-Amin. He is a trustworthy young man. What does he have for us? If I can't go, young man, go up there, go and listen to what Muhammad is saying, and then you come back and give me the report. So he gathered all of them. And then he asked them, if I were to tell you that right now, behind this valley, I can see an army ready to attack Mecca and destroy you guys, will you believe me? They unanimously said, we've never ever heard you say a lie, so we don't have any cause for us to what? To not believe you. He said, okay, then I have a stronger message. There is the punishment of the Almighty Allah waiting for you if you don't believe in Him and then you don't stop worshipping these idols. The first person to respond was his uncle Abu Lahab. He said, Alihada jama'atana? Is it because of this nonsense that you call us here? Tabbal laka sa'ir al-yawm. May you be cursed for the rest of time. And Almighty Allah revealed the surah, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. Then the persecutions begin, because the Makkans had their suspicions that there is a movement going on in the city that they don't understand, that there is a new breed of people who they already know. Some of them their wives, some of them their sons, some of them their slaves, and there's a new ideology in town. But because the Prophet Muhammad was very strategic in doing the Daawah, secretly in those first years, because he was very strategic in doing the Daawah secretly in those first years, they couldn't place their hands on what to do or where is the information coming from. But now that he stood on the mountain and then he gave them that message, they were like, oh wow, so our suspicions are true. What we were thinking is right. So what was their reaction? They started persecuting the community, the new Muslims. They started disturbing them. So they had spies to make sure they're able to know who a Muslim is and who is not. And part of the hikmah of the Almighty Allah is that in the early generation, or at that time, the Almighty Allah didn't reveal or He didn't instruct any form of ibadah. Because if the Almighty Allah had given us any form of ibadah at that time, they will what? They will have what? They will be targeted more. For example, if the first instruction was Salah, pray Salah, and there's a place for you to meet for Salah, the kuffar will easily walk in and then find you guys praying and they'll just kill you. So the Almighty Allah, in the first instance of Islam, the message was of Tawheed. And Tawheed is in the heart. So the Sahaba could carry their Iman in their hearts without anybody was persecuting them, because it is not written on the face that you are a mu'min or you are a munafiq or you are a kafir. So it helped the community to be able to what? To blend in. But then now that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has publicly declared his da'wah, now the kuffar really know that yes, we need to do something to stop this, because they really understood what the message was. Sometimes I'm tempted to say that the kuffar really understood the message of La ilaha illallah more than some of us modern day Muslims. Yes, and sometimes I'm tempted to say, because they said, أَجَعَلَ الْآلِهَةَ إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. So Muhammad now wants to tell us that all these gods that we have, he smashed all of them into one God. This is a strange statement. They really understood La ilaha illallah. They really understood it, because they knew what he was telling them. The God of rain is useless. The God of war is useless. The God of the harvest is useless. The God of success is useless. The God of this is useless. The God of this is useless. Put all those gods aside and come and worship one God. Whatever befalls you, whether good or bad, is through his willing or is through his decree and command. They really understood that. So they're like, no, Muhammad, you're bringing something that is going to crash or clash with our ideas and our civilization. So they began the persecution. And wallahi, is very, very painful. You live in a community where you're born and bred. Your father is in the community, your mother is there, your brothers are there. Because you have a change of ideology, you have a change of understanding based on the deen, you are ostracized. You're pushed aside. The kuffar used ways and different ways to stop the da'wah. They started with, warnings and threats. If you don't stop this message, we're going to kill you. Especially to the ones who belong to elite families or elite communities. Like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they know they couldn't touch him. Like Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, they knew they couldn't touch him. Like Uthman ibn Affan, they knew they couldn't touch them. So these guys, they needed, what they did was, they were giving them threats. And sometimes they shoved them. Or sometimes they just hit their back. Because one day the Prophet Muhammad himself was, praying in the Kaaba. When we say pray, even though Salat has not yet been revealed, but the early stages, the Prophet Muhammad himself was offering Salah. Jibreel came to teach him. It was after Isra wal Mi'raj that we had, the full Salah that we have. We'll come and discuss that. So when we say he's praying, don't get confused that no, Salah has not yet been made mandated. So what kind of prayer is he doing? We'll come explain that. And then they asked one young man, can you go, to the abattoir, to the farm, and get us rotten intestines of a camel? They went and then they got this rotten intestine of the camel. The Prophet Muhammad was in sujood, and they smeared his back with it. And then Fatima radiallahu anha will come to defend her father, and Abu Jahl will smash her in the face. Bilal ibn Rabah, you know the story. He hid his Islam, and his master, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, loved him because he was very obedient. He went on the errands without complaining. He did those things that he was required of him without complaining. But then he was a Muslim. So one day something happened when Bilal was serving him, the master. He made a very derogatory comment about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Bilal was boiling. He's boiling inside. He couldn't take it. And then he said back a word. And then they realized that, they asked him, are you with Muhammad? He said no. He realized he stayed, and then he came back to his senses that no, I'm not with him. It's not as if I'm with him, but you guys said he's as-sadiq al-amin. He's trustworthy. He speaks the truth. So why are you now today, calling him a liar? Doesn't mean that if you were truthful yesterday, then today it means that you guys are contradicting yourself. And he said, keep quiet. You a slave, what brains do you have? But someone amongst them said, a slave with a brain is more dangerous than a slave with a spear in his hand. You're like, what do you mean? He said, the slave with a spear, we can direct him to do whatever we want him to do. But this slave with a brain, we can't control him. In the end, he came and found Bilal, doing sujood in his own, corner somewhere. Like, oh, so you're praying, so you're with Muhammad. So that's when they caught him. They took him to the heat of the desert. They stripped him naked. They brought a boulder and placed it on his chest. Before that, they got a whip, flogged his back, cut his back, blood draining, turned him out the other side and placed a boulder on his chest. All they wanted was him to denounce Islam. There is Ali Yasir. Sumayya bint Khayyat was married to Yasir, and they gave birth to a son by name Ammar. And these were also slaves. Sumayya bint Khayyat, her son Ammar had accepted Islam, and then he convinced his mother, and she also accepted Islam. But the father was not in the know. So they found a way to explain to him Islam. He said, this thing makes sense, but my fear is that Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl and Walid ibn Mughira they will not let you guys go scot-free if they find you saying these things about their gods. He was scared for his life. But he knew that this is the truth. But they were able to convince him, and then he accepted Islam. To cut the long story short, the family was caught. They were sent into the heat of the desert in an encampment. The father was stripped naked in front of his son, and Abu Jahl slashed his throat. The mother was tied on the ground like this, and he got a spear and he pushed it through her womanhood. And Ammar is saying this. The father slashed in front of you. Your mother people went through a lot for us to get Islam. People went through a lot. We have Islam now, on a silver platter. So we don't really cherish what others had to go through for us to get Islam. Those who were weaker than this didn't even survive. When they realized that the punishment was not working, because these people were still strong on their faith. For example, in the case of Bilal radiallahu anhu, when he was punished and punished and punished, it got to a point whereby his master wanted to negotiate with him that, you Bilal, I'll stop punishing you, but come publicly and come and denounce Muhammad. He says, no. You can do whatever you want to do with my body, but my soul and my iman, you don't have access to that. I'm your slave because you own my body, but my conscience and my soul and my brain, you don't have that. So in the end, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu had to buy Bilal. And most of Abu Bakr Siddiq's wealth went into buying these people. So when he gets information that a slave has been caught, who is a Muslim and is being punished, he goes straight to the owner. I want to buy the slave. How much do you want to sell him? If originally the price of the slave may be 1,000 dinars, the master will say 10,000. Abu Bakr will give him the 10,000. He knows very well that that is not the price. But then he needed to buy his Jannah. His father called him and he said, Abu Bakr, I've been hearing that you have been buying slaves of late. But then I hear that you buy weak ones, weaklings, people who are not strong to work for you, whether in your farms or your trade or even to protect you personally. Why are you doing so? And then he said, Daddy, don't worry. I'm buying them for Jannah. I'm buying them for Jannah. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ always said that nobody's money has been beneficial to me like the money of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Nobody's wealth has been put in the service of Islam to the extent like that of Abu Bakr Siddiq. Abu Bakr Siddiq's wealth, it was not only his cash that was in the service of Islam. His whole family was in the service of Islam. His slaves were in the service of Islam. His animals were in the service of Islam. It's like a government machinery moving in the service of Islam. So they knew very well that Abu Bakr Siddiq was like this, the heart and the soul of the religion, because he was pumping the money in. But then they couldn't do anything to him physically. Except one day, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ went to do, tawaf around the Kaaba or to pray. He was with Abu Bakr Siddiq, so he decided to do sujood. And then the kuffar came out of, their pubs and, their drinking areas and like, no, Muhammad is insulting us now publicly. He has now come out publicly to come and pray. So they charged upon him, and Abu Bakr Siddiq, stood in front of them, between them and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They took out their shoes and they beat him to pulp. He was rescued by his family and he was sent home. His mother came and then she was crying. And then when he was resuscitated, the first thing he asked them was, Ma fa'ala Rasulullah? What happened to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And they told him, Rasulullah is fine, he's okay, you get some food. He said, no water is going to pass through my mouth until I see him. And they told him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been taken by Banu Hashim to a very safe place because of the attacks. We don't know where exactly he is. And he told them, find where the Prophet Muhammad is. I'm not going to work with hearsay. I want to see him and see that truly he is well. Otherwise, forget about your food and forget about your medicine. I don't need it. They had to carry him on people's shoulders. He couldn't walk. To take him to see the Prophet Muhammad. When he saw the Prophet, and yes, he realized the Prophet Muhammad was okay. He said, now, alhamdulillah, you can bring your food and you can bring your medicine. Otherwise, I don't need them. When they realized that, the punishment was not enough, it couldn't work, they changed the strategy. And the strategy was that, let's use social media. How are they going to use social media? You know what social media is being used now for? It's propaganda. You just send the wrong message across and then it catches fire, it goes viral, and that's it. So the first message was that, let's tell people Muhammad is mad. Because nobody says these things. These things that he's saying, it's a mad person who says that. And then they went further to say, people were like, no, Muhammad is not mad. We've been with him all these years, all the while we've been with him here. So he's not mad. He can't be mad. So, okay, the next strategy, he is a sorcerer. He charms people. And people said, no way. This is not sorcery. We know sorcery. We know how these people bring all their concoctions. We don't see him bring anything to mix to confuse people. So he's not a sorcerer. It's okay. He's a liar. I said, no, you people, you cannot be telling us the truth. You said As-Sadiqul Ameen. He is truthful, he is trustworthy. And today you are telling us that he is a liar. So what does it mean? how is this possible? On what grounds did you start to tell us that he is a liar? Now they said, okay, he's not a liar, but then he's bringing us some myth and then some legends from the some old stories. They said, no, this is not a legend. The Jews have been telling us that a prophet is going to appear in this time and in this area. So this guy is not giving us any myth. He's telling us something that is true. They said, okay, fine. The Quran itself is not from Allah. It is Muhammad himself who had created it. And they told them, we all know Muhammad. He's not been to school. He has not sat in any classroom for him to learn how to read or write. Then how is it possible that you are telling us that this Quran, it is the manufacturing of Muhammad? It is Muhammad himself who had what? Who had generated the Quran. So they realized that this propaganda is not going to work. So let's take it to another level. Now let's make fun of them. Let's mock them. Let's insult them. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will insult him. They will speak bad at him. The Sahaba will be mocked. They will be teased. They will say all kinds of things. All this didn't deter the Sahaba from practicing their Islam the way it's supposed to be. They realized that the mocks and then the insult is not working. Now, let us do something. Muhammad, okay, we've heard you. You are a prophet from the Almighty Allah. Give us a mu'jiza. Give us a sign. Give us a miracle to show that yes, you are really a prophet of the Almighty Allah. Because if you are really a prophet of the Almighty Allah, you are going to what? You are going to get what? You are going to get. You are going to have miracles. They forced and forced and forced until the Almighty Allah said, "Now I'm going to give you a miracle." The moon. You have Surah Al-Qamar. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. The kuffar said, Muhammad, if you can split the moon into two, we'll believe you. Okay, no problem. The Almighty Allah splits the moon into two. They could say, they saw it split into two. This one went this side, this one went to this side. It came back and then it merged again. And they said, Muhammad, we've seen it, we've heard it. But maybe it is only in Makkah you did an illusion that you saw. If the neighboring villages really confirm that the moon has been split, we'll believe you. It was in the night. The following morning, a caravan just entered Makkah, and we were like, Ya Ahl Makkah, did you see what happened last night? The people of Makkah were like, yes, what happened? They said, you people didn't see. They said, we were in the desert, and all of a sudden we saw that the moon has split into two, and then it has come back together again. The Kuffar of Makkah said, Muhammad, now your magic has gone beyond Makkah. It has even gone into the desert and in the villages. You have charmed everybody. They were the ones who called for the miracle, and when the miracle was established to them, they didn't believe it. The Kuffar had different ways of, trying to fight the message. Since time immemorial, and up till now, it has not changed. The modus operandi, the methodology has not changed. It has not changed. Some time ago, or even up to some time ago, I don't know about America during that time, but some time ago, the moment you grow a beard, you are flagged. You're flagged. Because growing your beard makes you look like someone. I don't want to mention your name. In this your country, you don't mention just any name. But now that you have people in showbiz growing their beards, it's normal. You get the point? Now that you have people in showbiz, these rappers and these musicians, because now they grow their beard, it is normal. Now you can come and pass through the airport with your beard, and then you'll not be flagged down, you'll not be questioned. When a woman is in a hijab, it becomes what? Problematic. The fight against the religion, we now have ideological warfare. Even though, yes, there's still physical confrontation with the deen, that sometimes you find some Muslim nations are there living peacefully, and then someone will come and say, I want to liberate you. and then they bomb the whole country, and then the country is set back 200 or 300 years behind. It's because they're Muslim. That's the fact. There are other nations who are worse off practicing being more dictators than these Muslim nations, but then because they are not Muslims, there's nothing wrong. Yes, Saddam Hussein was a dictator, but Iraq is better off under Saddam Hussein than it is now. Libya, yes, Gaddafi is a dictator, but Libya is better off under Gaddafi than it is now. So it's better to have some form of leadership than to have no leadership at all. And chaos running around, and all these nations have been destroyed because they are powerful nations. They are Muslim nations. They control reserves or resources that the world really needs. So that's even on the economic part. When you come on the psychological warfare path, which is more dangerous than the physical war, which is the fight against Islam now is through the intellect. This happened in the British House of Commons at the end of the 18th century, in the beginning of the 19th century. Or 19th century, end of the 19th century. The British Prime Minister at then was called Mr. Gladstone. And then he came into the British House of Commons and he said, if we want to destroy Islam, this is declassified information. If you want to destroy Islam, we need to check 3 things. The first one is the Quran. The second one is Friday prayer. And the third one is Yawm Arafah. If we are able to counter these 3 things, we'll destroy Islam. And then they asked him, how are we going to do that? He said, this Quran, we need to tear it into pieces. And they were like, how? Then one MP brought out the Quran and then he tore it into pieces. He said, you're stupid, that's not what I mean. We need to tear the love of the Quran out of the heart of the Muslims. If we pull it out, then we are done with them. Now, young Muslims know the rappers more than they know the Quran. You have Muslims who know more of athletes than they know of the Sahaba. A young Muslim now can give you the names, the first and the last, and the date of birth and the contract, and then even the paycheck of every player on the Eagles team. He knows them. But then when you ask him to name 5 of the Sahaba, apart from Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, it becomes problematic. Our enemies have done their work well. It's worked. Sometimes you go on social media, you see a Muslimah in hijab, full hijab on TikTok dancing seductively. So the fight now is not weapon fighting. No, they understand that when they say they're going to use weapons against Islam, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But then now it's about ideology. So bring out role models who hitherto are not role models for the Muslim community. So sometimes you find young Muslims, his haircut is clean here, and then there's the middle hair, his head looks like the head of a cock. And then you asked him, why is he doing that? Did he see any medical doctor do that? No. Did he see any engineer do that? No. Did he see any congressman do that? No. Did he see any senator do that? No. Where did he see that? Did he see any imam do that? No. Where did he see that? He saw it on a music video. That's it. So the warfare is there. So if you don't make a conscious, deliberate effort in nurturing the next generation of the Muslim community, who will have Muslims by name without an identity, and that's what they want from us. Google RAND report, the RAND Corporation, RAND, and this is a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar funded corporation which has been taxed to renew Islam for us. They are going to renew, they are renewing Islam. This type of Islam is renewal. as the French President Macron said, that Islam is in a crisis and that they need to help Islam, they need to save Islam. He is in a crisis, he needs saving. You can't go and get married to your grandmother and come and tell us that we need saving or we need reform. So this is it. And whether you like it or not, it's there. And they are not hiding it. They are saying it plainly that this is what they want to do. They will change your mind. Now we have communities growing, across, even in the US. Sometimes I see on the internet that there are some universities where they say, there's a group in one university I've forgotten. They said they are ex-gay Muslims. They are ex-gay. I was like, this is too much for me to handle. It's a combination. You're confused. Yes, they are ex-gay Muslims. And then recently, I think in Australia, there is an imam who came out and said he's an imam but he's gay. Yes, in Australia. So these are all ideological warfare. So if you don't stick to the Quran and Sunnah, your foundations will be shaking. And these people, they don't care. So long as you are without an identity, that's fine with them. So the Quran is a problem. So you remember very well, back home in Africa, those Quranic schools were termed what? Places for teaching terrorism. Yes. The university that I went to in Niger, Islamic University in Niger, I heard on the radio a security expert in Ghana, because some time ago there's a young man who left Ghana to join ISIS. And when he was going, he passed through Burkina Faso, through Niger, through Libya to go to ISIS. So the security capos in the country were discussing this, and then someone said there is a university in Niger that is the transit point for them. That is where they go, and then they are being taught, they are being prepared for the terrorist act before they move, to go and join ISIS. I met him one-on-one, and I asked him, I'm a student of the university, and this is my ID card. You are lying. Then he looked at me. I said, you are lying. There's no truth to it. This is my ID card. You just want to cause some chaos and confusion in the country for the government to feel that you're doing your job, but you're not doing the work. You are lying. The university is 50 kilometers away from Niamey. It's an open space. Anybody who has been there knows it. It is not in any cave anywhere, hiding anywhere. So Quranic schools are termed, terrorist schools. Those kids, they're going there to go and learn terrorism. So you don't want that. So most often than not, you realize that funding to Islamic communities in the third world countries has been cut. Yes, because why are you sending the money to West Africa? No, we are going there to help Islam to do that. No, you are going to support terrorism. The money is not going to go. So a lot of Muslim communities, Muslim schools in those desert regions and in the villages are suffering because there is no funding. Because that's the idea. The more people memorize the Quran, the more people study the Quran, the more people read the Quran, they become better Muslims, they really understand their religion. But then some people do not want that. So what do? We cut funding. It's problematic. But then, the Almighty Allah is with us. And no matter how hard you struggle or you try, alhamdulillah. The only thing is, Muslims, study your religion. I always tell Muslims, okay, I'm back, I'm Muslim. Study your religion. Understand the religion. And then if there is a need for you to make a statement about Islam, make an informed statement about Islam. As Ahmad Didat rahimahullah said, that the most dangerous Muslim is the ignorant Muslim, who doesn't know anything about Islam, but carries himself around as if he knows something. He makes a wrong statement about Islam, and then he sends a wrong notion about Islam out there. So we are ambassadors of the deen, especially the young ones. I always say this, you are ambassadors of the deen. And I'm very, very happy that in our classes lessons, when we started some months ago, it was the older guys, but now we see that the younger ones are coming in more. It's a positive sign that our community has a bright future. And I always say this, let them come in. Let the young men come in. Let them come in with their shortcomings. Let them come in with their challenges. When they come in, we are with them. They're going to have the effervescence of Islam. They're going to have that light. It's going to change little by little. We're going to get there. But then until we study and learn the deen, we're not going to make any headway. So today's lesson, the Daawah was made public. The kuffar pushed back. They used all kinds of, ways and means to fight the Daawah, and they're still doing it. Whether you like it or not, it's still there. Even back home in Ghana, it's still there. It's there. You go to an office and then your name is Muhammad Musa, and then he's asking you, are you a Ghanaian? Because your name is Muhammad Musa. Let me tell you a story about myself. Some years back, I used to wear shirt and pants and belt. If you observe me since I came, you've never seen me with a shirt and pants and belt. Not because it's haram, no. But I went to have my passport done in Ghana. And then they had a mistake in the date of birth. So I will send it back for it to be rectified. They said, no, I need to swear an affidavit. So I went and brought the old birth certificate, the one that when I was born, it was given to me at the hospital. It was given to my mother. They didn't give it to me. Give it to my mother at the hospital. And all the directors that needed to sign for a new passport signed, except one person. He said he wanted to see the owner of the passport. So I went to the office. And then you foreigners, when you come to this country, you want to come and get passports. And I asked him, what shows I'm a foreigner in Ghana? He said, look at your name. Abdul Hamid Bashir, that's your name. And I saw his name, Matthew something. And I said, Matthew, is it even an African name? So you are even the bigger foreigner because you are not even an African. Because Matthew is not an African name. Then he looked at me. I said, yes. So if you're going to go by names, I'm even more placed to be here than you. He said, fine. We can't just get up and then be changing our date of birth anyhow. So he's not going to sign. I said, okay, no problem. Keep the documents. I left. After 1 month, I went and put on my jabba and then my cap and then my grand bubu, the big one, with a walking stick. And I came into the office and then they were opening the doors. Oh, Alaji, you're welcome. Alaji, you're welcome. Alaji, you're welcome. Went straight to them. I said, young man, what's wrong with you? And he looked at me. My son's passport has been here for a couple of days now. You've not signed it for him to get. I want to send him to the UK to go and study. And then you're messing me up. You are being paid about us. We are sorry. We are sorry. Where are the documents? I gave it to him. He signed it. I went and I got my new passport printed. And I said, okay, so that's the secret in Ghana. Muslims in Ghana are very powerful in terms of the dressing. Yes, I can say this by fact. When you dress this way, the police officers don't even look at you. They can't stop you. Hey, these are big men. Because the politicians in Ghana have understood that if you want to win the elections, you need to bring the Muslims on board. So you find them dressing like us. They come to us, they want to let us, so they don't know how to do it, but because they want political power, they do it. That's the power of Islam. Make good use of it, wherever you find yourself. Make good use of it. The Almighty Allah said this deen is going to encompass everywhere. Make good use of it. Islam doesn't need any sword or any bullets for it to spread. No, you don't need that. It's an intellectual religion. The fastest growing religion in America today is Islam. And it grows faster in women more than men. The proportion of women accepting Islam in America is greater than the proportion of men accepting Islam. And then it's funny that the ratio of women accepting Islam in America, the ratio is higher in white women. In white women. Check the statistics. Because this religion makes sense. You understand it? So don't let anybody cow you and bully you and say your religion is a religion of terrorism, your religion is a violent religion. No. Which Muslim army is in America now going from house to force the Americans to accept Islam? Which Muslim army went to Indonesia to make the whole Indonesian place Muslim? No. Which Muslim army came into Africa and then the dominant religion in Africa today is what? Is Islam. Which religion? If you come to West Africa, 60 to 70% of the population of West Africa is Muslim. Which army is there? This is the work of the Almighty Allah. And I always say this, that if it is through us that Islam is going to, spread, then we are not doing a job. It's the Almighty Allah who is doing his own job. Some people accept Islam not because they've met Muslims, but they just saw a news item on the internet and they decided to research about Islam, and then they found the truth and then they accept Islam. And sometimes I'm even tempted to say that some non-Muslims, if they were to meet Muslims before they met Islam, they would not have accepted Islam. Because some of us, our attitude stinks. Excuse me to use that language. Some of us. So let's make ourselves better ambassadors of the deen, and Almighty Allah will safeguard us. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think we have a couple of minutes.